Let's get started. Hello and welcome to our virtual career expo featuring skilled and technical career pathways. I'm Tina Chace, Director of Business Development with the Lee Summit Economic Development Council. And we're happy to facilitate this event in coordination with Herndon Career Center and Southland CAPS. This hour focuses on careers in machine and tooling. So today we're joined here by three professionals from our local Lee Summit companies. And I'd like to just introduce to you today, Mr. Jeff Cooper, who is the Manufacturing General Manager with R&D Leverage.
Good morning.
And Michael Bohning, Chief Financial Officer with Creative Blow Mold and Tooling. And hopefully we'll have Danny join us. And when he does, I'll shout out who Danny's with. But before we get started, for those of you that have joined us today live, feel free to chime in through the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. You can just click on there and ask a question anytime. Alyssa just popped in and she's going to help us kind of get to your questions as you provide those through that feature. So we're going to, really the event is intended for you and to give you the information to better understand the benefits in choosing careers in manufacturing and specifically within machine and tooling. So don't, don't be scared just to jump right in at any time and we'll circle back around to you in that Q&A. So let's get started. And I'd like to start first with you, Jeff. Can you just tell us a little bit about your company, kind of what you do, what you produce, who your customers are, maybe your reach?
Okay. Jeff Cooper from R&D Leverage. We're an engineering and manufacturing firm, probably about a block southwest of Lee Summit High School on the south side of 50 Highway. We employ about 200 employees here at this site, mostly machinists, tool makers, engineers. We have a sales staff as well and a molding staff. We design and manufacture molds for the plastics industry and more specifically, plastic packaging, plastic bottles, caps and closures, things you might see in the aisleway at the Hy-Vee. And from pickles to ketchup to laundry detergent. Our customers are typically what we call converters. They're the people that we design and build a mold, we deliver the mold to a converter, and that converter manufactures the containers for the brand owners like Procter & Gamble or L'Oreal and these type of companies. And so skilled trades, we have a lot of machinists, a lot of tool makers, and engineer and the engineering staff. And my role is the general manager of manufacturing.
Thank you. Michael, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your company.
Sure. Actually, Creative Blow Mold Tooling is very similar to what Jeff just described on a little bit smaller scale. We've got about 40 employees at our location along 470 near the airport there. And again, as Jeff said, we've got design engineers, programmers, machinists, mold makers. We've got a sales staff as well, and really focused on designing, building, repairing extrusion blow molds. So we deal primarily with high density polyethylene type packaging, which, if you think about plastic bottles, those are the types of plastic bottles that you typically can't see through versus PET bottles that are manufactured, for applications like water bottles is probably the most popular for that. So again, very similar companies, smaller scale, but similar types of jobs and roles that we have within our company.
Great, thank you. So I see Danny's joined us. Hi, Danny. Danny Odell is a machine shop foreman with JCI Industries. Danny, could you kind of give us an overview of what JCI Industry does for the students attending?
Yes, we are a pump repair facility. We repair pumps from any, any size small up to big enough ones you could walk through. We also rebuild electric motors. And so the machine shop is always full of parts off of pumps and motors that we're replacing with new parts.
Great. Great. So it's interesting that there's, definitely similarities, as you both had mentioned, between R&D leverage and creative. It's a little bit different with what you do. So I like that we've got a little bit of diverse background to kind of talk about with the students. So Danny, let me ask you this question. What is your specific role or job, and how did you choose this career field?
Well, my parents owned a machine shop when I was growing up. So as soon as I finished high school, I went to work at their shop, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, you love it, right?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
What do I like about it?
Yeah.
Well, it's fun to just be able to take a piece of raw material and turn it into something, make a part out of it. Gives you great satisfaction.
Yeah, seeing the end result maybe,
Yeah.
or fixing a problem and you thought maybe, you wouldn't be able to do that. So problem solving is probably pretty important, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, walking through a process. Very good. So Jeff, talk to me about your specific role in your company and what you do.
Well, my career path through R&D is started as a CNC machinist, and that was back in 1988. CNC lathe operator is what I started at, and my interests go back into high school days. My friends and I were shop rats, or we just loved the shop. Every shop class we had in high school we took, and my friends and I work at R&D. And we're still, that network and the creation of a network is so important to a career path. But going back to high school is my formative years. It's like we had metal shop, we had wood shop, we had auto shop, we had plastic shop, and I took every single one of them and loved them, and kind of discovered my calling there, as a lot of your students, the Summit students will. CNC machinist, then got into tool making, mold making roles, assembly, a team leader, then the shop foreman, then I transitioned to an engineering manager role here at R&D for about 16 years, and then recently transitioned to the general manager of manufacturing role about 3 months ago, back into manufacturing.
Wonderful. And this will probably come up as we work our way through these questions, but it sounds like there's several opportunities to kind of learn more things and maybe move around within the shop, even move up, right?
Absolutely.
Which is very important because, some careers that you choose, you're kind of just that, right? Like in the medical field, it's very specific when you're going to college to be, let's say, a doctor. So while you may work your way around it as you're going to school to get a little extra knowledge, the end result will be pretty much the same, where here there's all kinds of ways that you can go, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
the engineering engineering roles and machining roles are so intertwined. A tool maker, in my opinion, is someone who understands the engineering requirements of a product real well, and then understands the machining and manufacturing roles very well, and combines the two together and makes it happen. And so, at R&D, probably creative as well, the roles are so close. And you get into a bigger corporation, and there's probably more departmentalization, but the smaller and medium-sized companies that you see around Lee Summit, great opportunities to get involved in both sides of the engineering manufacturing equation.
Yes, I like that. I like that a lot. Michael, what about you? So talk to us about your journey a little bit and what you do today.
I'm a little more unconventional than than Danny or Jeff in terms of their path. I actually started my career in public accounting and management consulting. Got an accounting degree in college and went into public accounting. Did a lot of work with small and mid-sized businesses, closely held owner-managed type companies, a lot of manufacturing companies that I worked with. And then in 2006, I actually acquired Creative, from its founders, and so became a business owner, and to see what life really was like on the other side of the table. And then late last year sold the business to some private investors, and now I've stayed on and kind of using my accounting background, to fill the role as CFO for the new business.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I guess I didn't know your full background, actually, because as long as I've known you, you've been advocating very strongly for these types of positions in the tooling and skilled trade with students. So I just assumed you really had like this really strong background in it, but you've done some phenomenal things with Creative in kind of onboarding kids and showing them the ability to move around and talk about that a little bit.
Well, one of the challenges, the manufacturing industry faces in general is just, fighting for resources, getting, particularly, younger people interested in the trade. In our case, more on the machining and technology side. And, when I was in high school, and probably what Jeff was talking about a little bit there, there were more opportunities at that point in time in high school to do some of those things, and that kind of transitioned away from that for some period of time. And I think it's kind of coming back again now, which is exciting, for those of us in manufacturing. But I think all of us understand that, we have to, promote our businesses, recruit, entry-level people into our companies, put systems and processes in place to make sure we train and develop those people, and then really give them the opportunity to figure out if this is the right career path for them. A lot of students coming out of high school may not know exactly what it is they want to do. And so, we've created, some summer intern, positions at Creative to give students an opportunity to come in, and it's a summer job, but it's also an opportunity for them to kind of get a feel for whether or not this is something they might like to do as a career, as an alternative maybe to going to college. We've also worked with, 2-year, community colleges that have precision machining technology programs to try to recruit those students in, maybe after their first year into a summer type position. And then obviously once they graduate, we hope to be able to hire them into our company. So really a lot of focus just on, creating opportunities for people to get into the industry, try it, see if it's something that they like. Because as Jeff said, there's a lot of opportunity once you get in the door, to move, within the company, whether it's, in machining, CNC side, moving in for us, we move people into programming. Some of those people move into engineering, and then even into sales, potentially down the road. So, so like most organizations, we try to create that career opportunity for people coming in.
I like that. So it looks like we have a couple questions. Alyssa, you want to read a couple of those questions live?
Yeah, this one's for Jeff. The question is, how long did you work at your building before you were promoted?
Well, I started, so I had the high school background that I described, and then I went into retail management for a little while, for about a 5-year stint. And then at about 25 or so, that grew old, and I kind of felt that I needed to return to my roots a little bit and my core aptitudes and interests. And so I headed back towards manufacturing at 25. And, as a result, my path was probably a little faster than most. Um, about a 4th-year apprentice position, I was promoted to the shop manager, which is really unusual. And I felt kind of awkward at the time because here I am, a 4th-year apprentice in charge of, 100 people shop, and it was a challenge, but it was a blessing and an opportunity that the founders of R&D gave me. And I was lucky to work with Ivan Drynick, the founder of the company, and still work with Ardith, his wife, and they've owned this company for 45 years. And I think the family type culture is really something that helped me flourish in it, and as well as my core aptitudes and interests and curiosities and interpersonal skills and things like that.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Alyssa, what's the next question? I think that might be for Michael, maybe.
Yeah, how high of an education do you look for in employees, and also what kind of experience do you look for?
We've hired students, young people right out of high school that have little or no experience, and but have an interest in learning and a commitment to doing a good job, and then we're able to train those entry-level employees, some of which have gone a long way up through our organization. If someone is looking specifically to get into precision machining technology, like a 2-year program, we certainly like to attract those types of people because they can come in and hit the ground running in our CNC department. But that's typically those are typically the 2 types of people that we hire probably the most. We do hire people into our engineering department, or have in the past. Some again with even 4-year engineering degree.
And then the last question we have through the chat is, how long does it take to mold a water bottle, and what kind of mold takes the longest?
Well, we do a lot of molds for PET containers like water bottles. Water bottles are so lightweight that it doesn't take long. There's a 2-step process where you make a preform, and then the preform is blown into a bottle. So it's like taking a test tube and then like a balloon type thing, blowing it into the shape of a bottle. And they're so lightweight. There's so little plastic that needs to be heated and cooled. It can happen very rapidly. And a lot of the machinery that does that makes water bottles at the rate of 40 to 60,000 per hour, which is a pretty good clip. You can see some of that here on a smaller scale happen, and you got to use a little imagination to visualize 60,000 bottles in an hour. But we have limited trial molding operations here on site, where we develop new containers, new preforms, new processes for our customers. And we've typically, when we provide tours for students, which we still do on a more limited basis than what we had pre-COVID, you get to see some of that happen. And it's fast paced. Probably some of the slower ones, the molds we make for Tide Pod containers, it's so huge, and there's so many grams of plastic in that preform and bottle. It takes a while to heat things up and blow them and cool them off. It's just a lot of energy moving around in the mold. Some of the other molds that we manufacture, medical devices, medical projects or products, very expensive molds, what we call high cavitation. You might get 96 syringe barrels in one shot, and maybe a 12-second shot. And the molds are very high dollar, very expensive molds. It's kind of fun but a little intimidating as well to work on projects of that magnitude. Maybe a $500,000 project, and then we sample and then deliver it to a customer. But it doesn't take long to make a water bottle. The more plastic, the bottom line is, the more plastic there is in the product, the longer it takes. And it's related to gram weight.
That's interesting. Well, let's dive into a little bit about your specific day. So Danny, I'd like to start with you. Kind of talk to me what it's like day to day, and I'll tell you some of the pre-questions that we received earlier surrounds this. So let me tell you what they asked you about your day. Said, how is your day structured? What is your environment like? And how much is your average workload? That's what the students were wondering about your day.
Well, my day starts off, I go around and make sure everybody's got something to work on. And then once I do that, then they start coming to me and asking me questions about, you know, how are you want me to do this or that or whatever. And I solve all their problems and questions and move on. And then I have meetings that I get into, and then back to the machine shop again. And it's just constant work working with the guys and solving issues and giving them ideas how to do what they're working on. And the workload is we've had a very heavy workload, probably for the last year. We've been working overtime, anywhere from 10 hours a day, 5 days a week to 6 and 7 days a week, sometimes, to keep up with it all. It seems like a never-ending process. Always something to work on.
That's right. It's job security. That's what my mom used to tell me. Yeah. So I think it's fair to say that all of our manufacturing companies have been super busy even during the pandemic, right?
Seems like it got even busier when last year when they shut everything down. So then everybody had time to take stuff apart and have it repaired. So
that's true. So and specifically R&D and creative, Michael, tell us a little bit about that during COVID. I mean, did you guys really ramp up too? Because most of the product lines that you're making are now things that people are looking for, right?
Yeah, in our case, you know, we make molds that produce a lot of the canisters for like the disinfectant wipes and that type of thing. And so we saw a number of customers really, so again, our customer is out trying to sell their molding capacity to the marketplace. And so in their case, if they've got, take, the owner, like the Clorox wipe brand, just as an example, if Clorox is trying to ramp up the number of wipe containers that they produce, because they're, if any of you were trying to find those in the early days of the pandemic, how difficult it was to find those. They just couldn't make them fast enough. And, and so those companies are coming to our customers and saying, hey, we need you to produce more of these canisters. And so in turn, then our customers are coming to us and saying, hey, we need more sets of these molds to be able to run and, and again, create more of those canisters. So it kind of, in that case, it's kind of a trickle down effect through the supply chain to us. Again, with the beauty of what we do, or like in Jeff's company, or at least what I've always found fascinating is, pretty much every plastic part has to start with a mold of some kind, and people don't really think about that. But if you want a plastic part, whether it's a container, a package, a radio dial, button, whatever it may be, it has to start with a mold. So, so again, in our case, some of the specific products that we built molds for really drove a lot more demand than what we normally saw. So our mix changed, but it did keep us very busy.
Right, right. So to kind of go back to that, what does it look like on a day-to-day basis for you? And I think these questions are really in turn for the students to kind of get in their mind, you know, what is my day going to be like? Am I going to be sitting at, you know, a computer all day long? Am I going to be moving around? What does it look like inside? So Jeff, talk to me a little bit about that at R&D.
Well, that's a good question. I've had a lot of, I've hired a lot of engineers through the years, and one of the things that surprises them is the amount of computer time that there is in the job versus moving around and hands-on time. So we use a lot of CAD CAM software, and the engineers use computer workstations with advanced softwares, you know, for the design of the molds, for the engineering of the molds, the finite element analysis of the molds. So there's a lot of computer and software time for the engineering side, but we're also a small enough company that you get to go see what you just engineered being manufactured out on the shop floor, and get to participate in that. So there's, which is kind of unique for the size companies that we are, and creative is as well, as you get to be involved in the whole project. From the launch to the completion and the shipment. And I think that's pretty rewarding for most employees here. Everybody has a role, responsibilities, skills, knowledge, assignments. But at the end of the day, you get to see the whole thing happen, unfold. And when it goes out the door, there's a real sense of satisfaction for that. And we ship molds all around the world. We've got a smaller shop than R&D. Well, it's R&D leverage, but in the middle of England, in Nottinghamshire, and there's about 90 people just like us working there. And so it's a global company. You know, we ship molds from Russia to South Africa to India to China, Japan, and all around North and South America. And so we get to, you know, there's a global awareness there. And a global customer base.
I like that. So what, Michael and Danny, what do you like most about being in this industry and your job specifically? If you were to give a pitch to a student to come work in this industry, what do you like most?
Well, there's every day's different. There's always something new coming up. You're never doing the same thing twice, it seems like. It's great for learning, because you're doing so many different things. You're learning all the time. Heck, I've been doing this for 45 years, and I'm still learning. So
I love that.
But I've been bringing in young students and training them to be machinists since probably 83. So, and I've got two right now that I'm training, and hiring another one. His start date is the 19th of this month. So then I'll have 3 apprentices under me. So I usually have anywhere from 2 to 4. So.
Wonderful. What about you, Michael? What's your pitch?
Well, I like what Danny said. I think the variety, the diversity of just what you see every day and you're dealing with every day. I know for our guys in the shop, I think that's one thing they really enjoy. They're building different types of parts on multiple machines on any given day, all of which go into the finished product. Which for us is those extrusion blow molds. From a company perspective, I think we all take pride in the fact that what we build, the molds we build, end up in products on the shelf that you can walk down the. I know when I first bought the company, I drove my wife crazy when we would go to Target or the grocery store or whatever. I'm stopping and looking at bottles and seeing who actually blew that bottle, who the blow molder was, to see if it was somebody that we had worked with or not. Or in the case of packaging that I know that we designed and made the molds for, again, you can, you pick that bottle up and say, yeah, we had a hand in making this. So, that's a lot of fun when you're involved in that, finished product.
Yeah, I would agree. Gives you, it kind of comes full circle for you, right? When you're able to see it on the shelf, and what you've done. So just to kind of go back a little bit, we touched on this with education and training. So what type of education and training do you need to secure a position in your company? And I think that's going to be different, whether it's entry level, right, or a more skilled engineer type position. But one of the specific questions was, are there OSHA hour requirements or other safety training required even to be entry level? Jeff, you want to start?
Well, we have safety training when we onboard new employees. Safety is a company responsibility as well as an individual responsibility. And, the fundamentals of wearing safety glasses and operating, knowing what you're doing, so you don't create an accident. But then also, slips and falls are some of the more common type accidents that could happen in the parking lot, getting out of your car. And so just being aware of safety. I think trade schools do a good job of teaching safety, and the instructors in trade schools. We work with, as well as Creative, we work with a lot of the local trade schools. And I can say with confidence that if you have interest and aptitude in being a tool maker machinist and you go to trade school, 1 or 2 years, and you're going to have multiple job offers. It's a real hot career choice right now. And I think it ties right in with robotics, the type of robotics programs that the schools have, where you design and manufacture a robot to do certain things and follow commands, and then problem solve what works, what doesn't work, how do you overcome your setbacks. But machining, tool making is a high demand trade right now. In our environment, maybe unlike other trades, we have to have tight controls of our environment in the shop floor. So that means the temperature is always about 72 degrees. The lights are always on. It's never raining inside the shop. So there's a very controlled environment, clean environment, high technology at your fingertips. We have machine tools that were $1.2 million. And so that's a lot of responsibility to be put on a machinist's shoulders. And the people that take that responsibility and do well with it, do well in the trade.
Gotcha. What do you think, Michael? Where would you think you recommend students start? Let's say entry level. For what kind of education or training do they need, or do they?
Well, again, we've hired some young people, out of high school, some of which have had some exposure to, some basic, shop type of programs, in high school. And so those people typically get a little bit of a jump because they're more, familiar with terminology and just kind of the general sense of what we're trying to do. But again, we've hired people, students right out of high school that didn't have that kind of capability or experience. But, they know in their mind that, hey, I enjoy working with my hands. Maybe I like working on cars on the weekends, or, building things, those types of aptitudes. And so they want to see whether manufacturing is a good choice for them. And, we bring them in and give them, like I said earlier, the training they need to really find out whether or not it is something that they want to do for a long time.
Yeah. And Danny, you mentioned an apprenticeship. do you guys have an apprenticeship program, and are those high school students that are kind of going through that program, or are you getting them from another institution?
Yeah, the program I'm doing right now is I don't have anybody in here right out of high school right now. The guy that I'm hiring right now that'll start on the 19th, I believe he's 32 years old.
Okay.
But as far as what kind of an education they need to come in, entry level, I would say while you're in high school, get in the metal shop and get yourself familiar with it. That's the best way to do it. If you don't, you can come in at an entry level with a high school education and without the metal shop and still learn just as well, as long as you're, like working with your hands, like Michael said. But it's just, as long as you have somebody that's good at teaching, you're gonna do well with it. And
Yeah.
Unlike Jeff and Michael, the shop here at JCI is fully manual machines versus the CNC. So it's all hands on. You learn your own machine setups and run the machine. There's no CNC controls and everything. So it's a little more hands on.
That's great. So what kind of skill sets then, when you're hiring somebody who would be younger, like a student coming into work, what kind of skill sets are you looking for in these kids, really?
Well, if they've got a mechanical background, or if they like working on stuff and using their hands, that's a plus. But if anybody sets their mind to it, they can get in and learn it.
Yeah, we like to hire for attitude and train for aptitude.
I like that.
And again, it's kind of cliche that the soft skills are important with any employee, particularly entry level. But for students coming right out of high school, and looking to get right into the workforce, it's a transition, and it's different. It can be difficult, to make that transition, but if you have a good attitude, if you're committed to giving it a true try, again, in our case, we understand that it may not work out for everyone, but if that employee is willing to give 100% to figuring out whether this is something that they want to do longer term, we're going to help them be successful. But if they're wishy-washy about it or not really committed to it, it becomes clear pretty quickly, and normally those things don't work out. But that doesn't mean we don't keep trying, because again, we know that we may hire 5 people and 2 or 3 of them turn out to be longer term employees, but that's okay.
Yeah. You have something to add, Jeff, about that?
Mechanical aptitude is so important, and attitude as well, as Michael said. I think the natural talent, is real important. The desire to learn, and because you can look at your job as it's my job to drill holes in a block of steel, or you can look at your job as it's my job to build a mold that's going to go to an international medical molding company. And I want to know what the steel is, what type of steel it is, how it's heat treated, how it's coated, how it's finished, how it's polished, how it transfers heat energy from A to B. I want to know those things. And the people that do best in the trade or the industry are the people who have those desires to, if they don't know it, they find a way to learn it. And it's right at our fingertips anymore, with the computers and internet and books, and just apply yourself and have that hunger for knowledge, and the job turns in from, transitions from, hey, my job is just to run this machine versus my job is to build this mold, and this mold is going to point A to B, and it's my job to make sure it's right. And it's very challenging and interesting and rewarding career path. But
Yeah, I get that. I get the sense of pride, even between, all of you, for your companies, but also the industry in your field. It's your craft almost. So I think once kids get in and maybe feel that, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna sense that some of them just kind of have the itch from there on, right? Like you can really kind of tell whether they're in it to win it, or maybe this is just a dip in the toe and they're moving on. So.
Yep.
So the next set of questions that came in earlier were all surrounding salary. So as you can imagine, and this one kind of always throws me a little bit as a high school kid. I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I was ever really thinking too much about it in this way, but maybe kids have really progressed and we've done a good job. But the question is, how much do you make starting out? And then how does that work in scaling up as you move around the shop or in more responsibility or positions? So can you guys give like just a range or an idea of what that looks like?
sure, I can start with that. So what you get paid is kind of proportional to what you bring to the table. And if you're walking in the door with very little skill and knowledge, and we're working with you to develop that, then you're probably talking the lower teens, $13, $14 an hour. You're bringing more skill and knowledge to the table. You're talking mid to upper teens. People that are apprenticeship type graduates that have been here 3 years, 4 years are probably looking right around 20. And then once you get established, and I'm going to say probably 10 years into it, you're talking mid 20s and per hour. And then big component of any trade is how your willingness to work. And that comes in, do you want to work 30 hours a week? Do you want to work 40 hours a week? Do you want to work 60 hours a week? And we have a lot of guys that make a lot of money because they like to work. And the overtime component is a big part of your annual income. And I liked it so much back when I started. I was working 70, 80 hours a week. I just couldn't get enough of it. And I made a lot of money as a result. And I couldn't believe it, that I could do something I like so much and earn so much. But and I think that goes with every trade. And trades, people, there's a little entrepreneurial spirit that goes along with it. And that can sometimes transition into business ownership, like in Michael's case, as he described. The entrepreneurial spirit isn't too far away in the environment and in the culture of shops like the ones that are on the online today.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. It does kind of take a little bit of that mindset too. And someone who already has it, and then they have that technical side, it could go either way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Michael and Danny, are yours any different than kind of what Jeff described?
Well, being our shop is all manual, the pay scale's a little bit different than the CNC shop. We bring people in like this guy that I'm bringing in here in a couple of weeks. He did have metal shop in high school. That's the only experience he's had, and we're starting him off at 19 an hour. And that's usually what we start them off at if they're coming in green and with no experience. It'll be anywhere between $18 to $20 an hour starting off. And as they learn, I'd say in 5 years they'd probably be in the mid 20s. by 10 years down the road, if their skill sets are where they should be, they can be up around 30.
Mhm.
And as they go on, they can get up into the $40 an hour range.
Yeah, and are they learning like certifications through the process of the apprenticeship program? Certain skill sets that give them that bump?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Michael, yours pretty similar to Jeff's then?
Yeah, I would say so. You know, one point I would make is, you know, historically in our industry, you know, pay was based really almost more on time and grade. I think, you know, over the last, you know, 20 plus years, it's migrated to, you know, pay for performance. You know, it used to be, it was all about seniority and how long have you been here, and that was, you know, equivalent to your ability to contribute. And I think most companies now are trying to identify people, you know, who can move faster up the ladder, if you will. They're able to take on more, contribute more, increase their capacity, their capabilities, and so they can earn more faster. I know that's been a challenge for us because we've got some employees that have been with us, you know, for 30 years plus, and they, you know, and they see some younger person come in that's really doing a great job, and they're moving up a lot faster than maybe they moved up when they were that you know, employee's age. But that's really what it's about. It's, you know, and you know, on any team, you know, you've got people, you know, everybody plays a role, and in some cases you've got you know, team members that are, you know, they just you know, are driven to move a little faster up the ladder. And so we've tried to identify those people, reward those people. So you know, and not base it as much on how long you've been here, but, you know, really, what have you learned? What are you able to do? You know, how many machines can you run? How many different types of machines can you run? You know, the complexity of the programs that you can run. You know, all of those things enter into someone's value, you know, to the company. So we try to base their compensation on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. So we've got about 10 minutes left. I just want to remind the students, if they have questions, please throw them in the Q&A. We will certainly get to those. I've got a couple more questions in the meantime. One of them, and this is to all of you, how can students get connected in your industry or in your specific company while they're still in high school? So are there certain associations for, you know, that you guys belong to that maybe will help them kind of gain more understanding about the industry? Or is that directly with you as a company? Do you have programs?
Well, I think, you know, we have membership in the AMBA, which is the American Mold Builders Association, and they are a good source for research and to understand what mold making is all about. Also the NTMA, which is the National Tooling and Machining Association. And so we have membership there, but then also, you know, we love to network and we like to get to know, you know, be good citizens of Lee Summit and provide tours and advice and mentorship for career path advisement. Even with COVID, I think there's ways for maybe small groups of students to come out and visit us. And I'm not hard to get a hold of. You can just write our website or through Tina, contact information, as well as a lot of the Summit Tech people that, you know, Creative, I know, works with them as well. And if you want to get a sense for what maybe a little bit of career shadowing, job shadowing, it's a good way to do it. Just reach out to us individually and come and visit our shops. And whether it's engineering or manufacturing or programming or whatever it is, I think we'd be happy to help out with that.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So following today's panels. We're recording each session, and it will be hosted on our web page for everyone to rewatch the session, but it will also have contact information to reach out to you all as well. So with your bio. So Michael, what do you have anything to add to that?
You know, the only thing that, you know, I would say we do or have the last couple of summers hired high school students in to, you know, kind of like I mentioned this before, you know, we call it a summer internship. It's really more of a, you know, a summer work opportunity for students that, you know, think that manufacturing may be something they're interested in. And, you know, so they can come in. Obviously, we've got some OSHA limitations on what types of things that they may be able to do, but you know, we obviously you know, we adhere to those types of things in terms of the duties that we ask of these students. But it really does give them an opportunity to be in a real world environment that's, you know, working with other people, working with people of different backgrounds, different ages, things like that, that maybe they don't get if they work, you know, in a retail type of a you know, job during the summer, you know, and so that's one thing. On our website, there's a place where you can apply for those summer internship positions. So any student out there that's interested in, you know, in that type of an opportunity, please go to our website, fill out the application. We'll bring you in for an interview, and then, like I said, we typically hire, you know, anywhere from 1 to 3 of those positions each summer.
Yeah, I love that, because it does give the kids an idea without the commitment, right? Without the internship commitment to come in, get paid and learn something. And you kind of get to see if you think it might work out, right? It's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, we're, you know, we I mean, we're doing it for our benefit too. Obviously, we're trying to, you know, we're trying to promote the opportunities at our company, and we're trying to find what could be potential longer term employees after they graduate from high school.
Yeah, gotcha. I lost you there, Danny. What about you? What do you have anything to add to that as far as the associations or ways to get connected?
Yeah, JCI has intern programs as well, and we in the past we have done some tours for the high schools.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably get back to that as the COVID dies down some.
Yeah.
But before COVID, we were doing a tour for Lee Summit High School, I think every year. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
okay.
Yes.
Good. Well, I have one last question, and it's a fun one. It's nothing serious. So basically, what's your best advice in choosing a career, and what advice would you give high school students now that you are seasoned and have done this? You know, what would you tell yourself then, I guess?
Should I start with that one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. One of the things I took for granted or didn't really understand when I was younger is the value of good mentors. And those mentors come in a lot of forms, from teachers to neighbors to parents to people that you meet, and just learn from those people, seek guidance from those people, ask advice from those people, listen to those people. And the mentors are so important to your career, as well as your network. You know, the people, I know parents always say, be careful who you hang out with, because, you know, you'll rise to whatever level or fall to whatever level. But the network of people that you associate with will pull you along too, and you'll find opportunities through that. So through networking and mentors and identifying mentors, taking advantage of mentors are some of the things that I didn't really understand when I was a teenager. And I really understand now, because I've had some people invest in me through the years, and I appreciate that, and I count those blessings to this day. So
that's a great point. Yeah. Danny, what about you?
I'd have to agree with Jeff. anytime you have somebody that's willing to share knowledge with you, soak it all up. Definitely.
Michael?
I'd say, find something that you love. I mean, I don't remember, the exact quote, but if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, or something to that effect. And so that may mean you have to try different things. And I think young people today are probably better at that than they were when I was, coming out of high school. Again, more traditional, you kind of picked a job, and that was kind of your career path. And so I think it's okay to to experiment with some different things, but because you're gonna be the happiest, and your employer is gonna be the happiest with you if you're in a job and doing a role, or performing a role that you really enjoy. So don't be afraid to look at different opportunities. And obviously manufacturing is one that, there's 3 companies here today that provide ample opportunity to figure out whether that's something, that might work for you. There are certainly others in our community and region. And so if you think manufacturing is something you might like to try, try it and see what you think, because it may be more than what you expect. It may not be what you expect, but I encourage you to, get involved early, talk to people like the 3 of us. If you have an opportunity like what we offer in the summer, try that. The tours, those types of things, talk to other people that are in our industry. A lot of different ways to learn whether or not it might be something that's a fit for you.
Yeah. Perfect ending, I think, to our call. I thank each of you very much for doing this. I think it matters in a lot of ways, but I think what you guys do and how you give back to the students will come back to you, right? And I think the more times that we do things like this with the school, the better we're going to be. So I look forward to working with the 3 of you as we move forward, even trying to plan things next year, and really kind of build up a little bit more of this exposure for this manufacturing piece. So there's some kids in there, I know it, who maybe are still getting out going, well, I don't know, I'm just going to sit on my mom's couch for, 3 or 4 months and figure it out. So let's get them to work.
Yep.
All right.
That's good.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Thank you.